we're going to talk. So there is a surgeon who, in a podcast last year, actually works for what is that? OHSU, which is the Oregon Health and Science University. They are using robotics to create do genital surgeries for trans people. And I've heard about this a long time ago too, because I know robotics is kind of taking off in all surgeries, right? But this doctor, actually, this video is now deleted because Dr. Blaire Peters, who was actually brought in by Nike during became more popular because they were brought in by Nike during their like their woke pride campaign to talk about like these types of things. But in this video, he actually talks kind of about like he literally says, we are still learning and figuring out what works. And this was when talking about children. This was talking about children and then like some of the genital surgeries and talking about like puberty blockers and figuring out what actually works to satisfy that. Somebody please tell me how this is not an experiment. I've literally had doctors tell me that I was being doctors in the legislature, I will say, Republican doctors, literally tell me that I was being too harsh for for saying that we are experimenting on children in these regards. And they said, I think you're being a little bit harsh for that, right? I'm like, well, what do you call it? We don't have the data. The WPATH guidance says we don't actually know. Puberty blockers be prescribed off label. And so instead of waiting until we actually do the test to see if they are viable, we are just doing a mass experiment on all the kids so that they think that puberty blockers and all that. So they don't actually really know. And this was a pretty big admission from this doctor as well. We're just trying to figure it out, saying it's still an experiment. So actually, Ashley Sinclair, who actually works for the Babylon Bee, and is I met Ashley when I was up on Timcast last time, as well. Great person, love her to death. So from the time I met her, but so she put this up there talking about this too, and this was kind of a good clip of what this I mean, it's an hour-long podcast, but this was a good clip of what was said during it.
So 80% or so of my practice is gender affirming surgery. So I do facial, chest surgery, and genital surgery. But the majority of my practice and sort of where my passion lies is really genital surgery cases. So I do a lot of vaginoplasty and a lot of phalloplasty. I would just say they're expanding in either direction. So yeah, a lot of adolescents presenting for surgical intervention, but also a lot of people that are like in their 70s sometimes coming in for genital surgery, and then everything in between. But the adolescents for sure present some unique challenges. Obviously, there's great evidence supporting pubertal suppression for a whole variety of benefits. But the one thing that is very new is genital surgery in someone that has underwent pubertal suppression. Not so much an issue in someone with assigned female at birth anatomy that undergoes a phalloplasty, because we're creating something with a free tissue transfer or flap anyway. But a much bigger issue for an individual that's undergoing a penile inversion vaginoplasty. Because we use all of that tissue to basically create the vulva as well as line the internal vaginal canal. And as a specialty, those of us that do a fairly high volume of genital gender affirming surgery, we've maybe done a handful of pubertally suppressed adolescents as a field, and no one's published on it yet. We're just putting our first series together as we're kind of learning and figuring out what works. But it's really changing things because you don't have enough tissue to line the vaginal canal. So you either have to take a skin graft or take skin from elsewhere or use some artificial product. The way that we're dealing with it is by using a robot, and we're basically performing intra-abdominal components of the surgery. So we're using peritoneum, which is the inner lining of the abdomen, to line most of the vaginal canal. And by doing that, that allows us to use all of the remaining tissue externally to create a vulva and try to make also an aesthetic result.
So that's, first off, he says a lot of adolescents presenting for these types of surgeries. That's kind of an admission right there as well. Thought this wasn't happening. We've talked about this a little bit on this channel though too, with Marcy Bowers. It kind of said this is kind of the same thing as Marcy Bowers said. There's not enough tissue. And we also know they actually went on in this to also talk about sexual satisfaction and everything there. There was a video I had done off, not one of these live streams, but it was one of the other special videos that I did. It was talking about the person who died after surgery because from the flesh-eating bacteria, because they grafted skin from elsewhere. And anytime you graft skin from anywhere else, it's going to cause issues. I think that there's something really odd with him saying that his practice lies in, genital, or his passion lies in genital surgeries. But all of that was basically like, yeah, we're still trying to figure out, like, literally OHSU is just now writing up the first like documents of this, because nobody's ever really documented this type of stuff and how it actually works out. So again, I take you back to the when I started this 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 portion. How is this not an experiment? I don't get it. And let me see who said that. So Magnificent Devil said this earlier, and I want to talk about this for a second. Doctors tend to be arrogant and are extremely reluctant to ever criticize another doctor. Yeah, you're right. Actually, in my Freedom Fest panel or discussion with Brett Palumbo, somebody kind of asked this question about doctors, and I made a very similar assertion. Because I don't want to castigate all doctors, but there is something narcissistic about our medical field, to where if you even question them, Fauci is the science. If you even dare to question them, they don't take it very well. Like, they don't take that very well. So, but they're experimenting on the entire population. I saw the same thing, and Ashley St. Clair is actually a person that who kind of raised this issue a few weeks ago. Actually, again, the night after I was on Timcast, she was on there talking about birth control. And birth control is a major issue that, as I said earlier in this episode, they basically have found that, with birth control, it can cause suicidality in the young female, and then they just throw an SSRI at it. That's what they're doing with gender affirming care. They don't know. They're just, if this causes this, they'll just throw another drug at it. They want to make money. And I think that there's a little bit of, like I said, arrogance, narcissism, elitism happening in a lot of our medical industry right now. We've seen it, and I think COVID, one of the things that COVID did was kind of expose how, they don't actually want you to have, we don't have informed consent. And that's what I said to Ashley's tweet on birth control, is we don't actually have informed consent in this country. I think I froze again, but no. So we don't actually have informed consent in this country. We have a system where They will do what they want. And if you question them, they won't tell you all the harmful benefits of stuff. They will simply tell you what they think you want to know, or some of the stuff that they want you to know, but they won't tell you everything else. When I transitioned on a informed consent model. But I did the most digging you could ever do. I mean, it took me about 4 years to determine that I was ready, that this is what I was going to do, and I was actually going to transition. So I knew about everything that you could know about transition, but the average health decision that people go through, that's not what's going on. And so every young female has been told for years that they should be put on birth control for a number of issues, whether it's cycle issues with their cycle or issues here and there. And I don't even pretend to know a lot about that, because obviously I've never had to go through that, because I'm a male and never had to go through birth control stuff. But there's issues, and even when a doctor says, admits the study and knows the study, but also admits that they don't think the study is relevant, because they think that the birth control will do you better, and if it causes issues, then, like I said, they'll just throw you on an SSRI. That's what she basically said. And so I think a lot of people are starting to wake up to this fact, not just in the gender world, but across the board. When it comes to the medical industry, you have to do your own research. And again, that's the one thing that COVID kind of taught us to do, is our own research, and expose, the narcissism, the elitism that happens within the medical field. But I think you have to go find good doctors. I think that's why the free market is wonderful, and we need to push that out there. And I do want to actually, yeah, I'll let you guys know. So I was honored at Freedom Fest. It's kind of crazy. Tell this story too. Me and Olivia Rondeau had gotten off of our bus, and we were walking back to the hotel, and I met Dr. Robert Malone in the hallway, and I thanked him for speaking out as he did during COVID. And so that was actually one of the biggest honors that I had during Freedom Fest, because when you have somebody like a good doctor like Dr. Robert Malone speaking truth about what's actually going on, then I think that's hope for the country. And so I'm grateful that I had that opportunity, and it just happened by chance. Like I said, it was really, really awesome. Just to be, I just said, like I said, I don't take pictures of people because I think that they're amazing, and I also feel like, I want to be like their peer. So I didn't, but I just said, I shook his hand and said, I just want to say thank you for speaking out the way you did and taking those risks. Same with Winston Marshall, my new friend Winston Marshall, formerly from the Mumford and Sons. If you saw my actually on the Post Millennials Twitter page, you see the interview I did with him right after he gave his speech. We don't have enough people speaking out in different areas, and he lost his he's no longer part of the Mumford and Sons, which is a great band, because of this. And again, just really thankful I was able to meet him and meet so many other people there. But yeah, so I probably had more that we could talk about this story as well, but it is yeah, I feel really awkward doing that, so I don't feel it. As Courtney says, it feels almost like worship, and that's not how I feel about anyone. No, you're right, and that's kind of like I said, I like when people come and ask me to take pictures. It feels good when people ask me to take pictures and stuff like that. It means my message is getting across. But at the same time, it's like when I see somebody, they're just normal. They're just normal people, and I don't want to come across as overbearing. I want to respect their space and privacy, but and it's usually when I meet somebody, it's just a quick introduction of who I am, and if we end up having a longer conversation, it's great. With Winston, it was different because I was actually covering the event for the Post Millennial, and his whole speech was about how he got canceled for telling people to go read Andy No's book. And if you know, Andy is our senior editor at the Post Millennial, and so he was very good friends with most of the people in our organization and knew who we were. And so that's the main reason why I was like, hey, do you want to do a quick interview? And he did, and it was great. And I'm grateful for him. I talked to him later on, and just really amazing people out in the industry. So yeah, Robbie says I do it for the memories. So here's the thing: is I am actually one of these people who I don't even like to take video or take my phone out in a lot of instances. I go to a concert and I enjoy the concert. Like I see people watching the concert through their phones and stuff like that. And if you're one of these people, I'm not here to shame you, but um I'm just kind of like I I'm just here for the memories to actually watch instead of like looking through my phone. Now I'll take selfies with my friends and stuff real quick, but not like the people that you know what really grinds my gears is when people videotape like concerts and stuff like that. It's like, why aren't you just like living for the moment? And I think part of it is that people want to take video and people want to take video and they want to, post these things because they want to post it on social media. They want to get the social media clout. And really, I just want to get the memories. And maybe it's because I have a very good it's not quite a photographic memory, but I remember stories. I can remember details of stories very well. But I don't know the last time that I actually took a picture, or I took a video of something, and I went down and actually went and watched the video ever again of like the concert. I watch, I don't watch. If I go to a concert, I just want to enjoy the concert. So Chelsea says, I attend a lot of music festivals, and across a 4-day fest, probably take 1 to 3 pictures. Yeah, I mean, take pictures with friends, take pictures with people, but not the event. And I actually have a meme. It's not, maybe it's not really a meme, but it shows it. It's like a parade, and everybody in this crowd all have their phones out and they're filming and taking pictures of what's going on. And there's this little old lady standing on the railing just watching. And the caption to the meme is, this woman came from a time um, before social media where they actually knew how to enjoy an event and they weren't just doing stuff for social media clout. And I thought that was it's actually a really powerful meme or a really powerful picture because it's true. Like I would rather just have the memories here and not, videotape it for everything else. The only other time that you would videotape stuff like that is when it's your kids, I guess, like you want the memories with your kids, but not for like a concert or experience that really doesn't matter or anything like that. Yeah, like a group shot of me. Like there's like different stuff. I like I said, I am bad because I didn't take a lot of pictures, but I took a lot of pictures with friends this week. And so like if you saw, Christina Buttons just posted some pictures of us, which love getting together with them and love having, love seeing the pictures and stuff like that again. And so it's a difference when you're taking a picture of yourself with people, or if you're just taking a picture again, just to take pictures with somebody that you don't, I mean, I also, like I said, I tend to not take a lot of pictures when it comes to, I guess, celebrities and stuff like that. So I don't know how I got off on this tangent, but I did. So yeah, Christina's had a lot of great pictures from the event. There's a lot of great people at the event. And so yeah, I'm definitely Freedom Fest is great. It's kind of like our Liberty family reunion. It was good. But yeah, so I just want to thank y'all for joining joining me this evening. Oh, actually, yeah. go and read this article because there's a lot of good stuff in here. I wrote it this weekend. It talks about like the sub niches of training, the complications, talking about rectal injury and urinary incompetence and sexual satisfaction and lower. Well, if you have a vaginoplasty, you're not going to be able to have kids. But he also talks about how, a lot of issues come up even 20 years out when people stop like dilating and doing all that stuff and that. So go read the story. If you don't, I mean, go and subscribe to the Post Millennial. You can get these stories without the ads, which is always great. Or go subscribe to the Post Millennial on Twitter.